polish off setting up the new levels, we're going to have to do a little bit of housekeeping here. Instead of our debug statement saying game restarted, such as in the restart subroutine, we're going to change this a little bit and we're going to say that a new level has started. So we're going to say level, and I'm going to put in a space here because I'm then going to put in the actual level number just to make sure we're on the right level, and I'm going to put in the word started. So notice where I put in my spaces, I got one here before the word started, one here after the word level, just so it's easier to read. So it should tell me what level is started. And to be honest, this line of code needs to be placed after we set the level. So let's go ahead and take this, and I'm going to put it right after my level here, because instead of setting level equal to 1, since they beat the new level, and this is called after they beat the level, for example, when the block break count is 0, we're calling it a subroutine. So we need to change this to plus equals 1. And what that's going to do is add 1 to the level, and then this should output the correct level. We should also put in a debug statement because I want to show you guys what this is going to look like, kind of get some more understanding. So in the restart subroutine, I guess we'll do it here too. After we cycle through and create all these different blocks for the level, what I want to do is put in a debug statement, and we're just going to say which control was actually added. So we'll say control added, and then we'll give out each number control. So this will just be control added, and then it'll tell us what number it is. I'm going to do this same exact thing, so I'm just going to copy this and paste it right down in our setup new level. Okay, same thing, right in our for block. I'm going to put it right after creating the block right here. If you go ahead and test your game and hit play, okay, you can go ahead and play through. However, it's going to take a long time, so your shortcuts should be L to lose a life, H to gain score, and C just to skip to a new level. So if you hit C, this is our message box that we programmed. It says congratulations, it says they beat the level, and click OK to move to the next one. As soon as they click OK, it goes to the next level. Looks like we forgot to change the text to show the next level, or at least I did. Alright, looks like it's still working correctly. If we hit L, it's going to lose a life. If we hit C, it's going to say you beat level 2, the correct level there. So the level variable is correct, but we didn't change the label. Click OK, and now we're on to level 3. This is what my level 3 looks like. All right, if you come across errors when you're playtesting, again, make sure the number of points you have here matches what you set your block count to down in the setup new level, right here, this if statement. All right, so to actually fix the level text right here, when we increase the level, we forgot to change this right here. So instead of saying 1, we're just going to output what level is right after that. So this will say level, and then this will be the correct one because it'll add 1 to it. All right, one thing I noticed when you play test and you hit the X button on the main game screen, so for example, you hit play right here, if you hit the X, it doesn't actually stop debugging. So what we want to do is fix that real quick. So up in code view, make sure you're on your game script here. Go to game events on the left drop box. On the right drop box, go to form closed. Right here. Make sure it's closed and not closing. Form closed. Mine put it right below your point arrays here. Should do the same thing for you. Doesn't actually matter where it's at. All we're going to do is tell the application to exit when they hit the X. That'll stop debugging. Okay, some people forget to do that, and they try and edit it when they're still in debugging mode. So now when I hit the X, notice it stopped debugging. You got the play button again. Okay, what we're going to set up next is the high score. So if the player gets a high score, we want to be able to save it and then load it on the machine. So what I'm going to do first is go ahead and lay out how my high score is going to display here. It's not going to be the prettiest, but it'll get the job done. So first I'm just going to pick out a blank picture box, because since we have a background image here, the text isn't going to display right. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a blank picture box like that. So then when I put my labels on top of it, you can read it nice and pretty like. All right, I'm going to increase the font size here. So it's a little easier to read. And it doesn't matter what the name of this label is because we're not actually going to grab it in code. However, I'm just going to say high score. And I guess I'll go ahead and make this bold so it stands out a little bit more. And then one more label. And to make this show appropriately, I'm going to change its anchor point. So its anchor point is just going to be the top. Notice the top and the left are highlighted by default. Just click this left side here and it'll anchor it to the top. And then text align, so it pops in correctly, I'm going to do middle center. Again, the text is a little small. I'm going to increase that. I'll put that smack dab in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and give this a name of LBL for label, and then high score. High and score are capitalized. And the text, so what this is going to do is display both the score and the name of the player who got the high score. So this is going to say 0 by, and then we don't know who it's by yet. So I guess I'll just put in a score for now, 120 by Bob. All right, so you can see what it's going to look like, something like that. All right, we play test that. Yep, looks pretty good. Again, not the prettiest thing in the world, but it works. All right, so now the next thing is we need a text file to actually hold the name and score or high score of the player. So what I need you guys to do is go into your File Explorer and into your project folder where it is. So for example, this is my project folder. Okay, brings this up. Go into your project. Mine's called Breakout 3. I was testing with Breakout, so don't worry about that. But click here, you should get, this is where your solution is. If you double click this folder, you get to all these different form files here with your different folders. Click on the bin folder, click on the debug folder, and then right down here, we need to go ahead and create a score.txt. I already did it, so it's there. You shouldn't have that. All right, I'll go ahead and do that in a blank folder. So yours probably looks like this. And I'll show you what to do. So right click, new, and text document. So this is going to create a new blank text document. And I'm just going to call it score. Hit enter, and it'll put it in there. So we got a blank document called score.txt. This is going to hold the high score of the player and the player's name. So right now we need two values to actually be put in there first so the game can read it. Right click and edit with Notepad++. Okay, as soon as you click on that, it's going to bring up a text editor and should look something like this, where you have score.txt and it's a blank file. All we have to do is put the name at the top. So for now, it's just going to be a dash because no one's actually played the game yet. And below it, we need a score, so we're just going to put 0. It needs to be a number. We can't put a dash here because the way we set it up. So I'm just going to hit the save button. And that's all we need to do for that. You can leave it open because we can check it after we play test it and get this set up. So I'm just going to minimize that. Okay, we're done with this. X that out. Go back to your game. All right, so to get all this set up, we're going to have to create some variables to hold the high score and the player name. So we're going to create them public because we're going to need to grab them from other scripts as well to get all this set up correctly. So we're going to have a high score as an integer. And first we'll set it to 0. And I'm going to create a variable and call player name. And it's going to be a string that's empty at first. And then this last variable we're going to create is the actual integer that corresponds to our txt file. And for right now, it's just going to be 0. Okay, if you access multiple files for a game, which many games do, you have to create an integer for each one. So this one, since we're only going to have one file, we're only going to have one called 0. If you had another file, you name it 1, so on and so forth. You just enumerate it. So when the game is first booted, this main menu is going to pop up, and we need to make sure that this high score is displayed correctly. So let's go ahead and grab the load event. So if you just want to double click on your main menu, should bring up the load event. If that doesn't work, make sure you have your main menu script selected, click on main menu events, and then in the right drop box, find load, click it, and it should pop this in for you. Doesn't matter where it's at in code. Okay, normally the load's at the top, so I guess I'll go ahead and put it there, but it doesn't really matter. So inside here, all we're going to do is call a new subroutine, and that's going to be to refresh the high score. What this is for, it's going to load the score.txt file that we just created and take this and put it inside of the label we just created. All right, so we're going to read that file and put in the high score. So I'll create that subroutine right down here, private sub. Actually, sorry about that. It's going to be public because we're going to need to call it from other scripts. Refresh high score. There we go. All right, so we're going to set file number equal to a new free file. And then we're going to tell it, the program, to open this file. And we need to give it the name of the file it has to open. And we're going to tell it what type of mode. There's a few different modes here, but we're only going to use input and output. Input's when you want to write, output's when you want to read. So what we want to do is actually write the information from here and put it into our label. All right, so what we're going to do is set player name. Right now it's only empty or equal to an empty string. So we're going to set it equal to the line that's in the file, and we're going to grab the line from the file number. Do the same thing for the high score. There we are. And then after you're done messing with a file, just to save memory on the computer or save processing power, we always want to close. So notice that we have a file open, where it opens the file, you do some stuff, and then you close the file. That saves processing power on the computer. And the last thing we want to do is set the label of our high score, which is this label here in Design View. We're going to set that to the correct values that it just grabbed here, that we just set our variables to. So we're going to say high score, and what this next command does is put in a new line. Okay, so that's all that does is drop the text down to a new line, and then I'm going to say by, and then put in the player name. So it'll put the score on one line, drop to the new line, and then say by whoever. Okay, as soon as I hit play on this, bam, it goes ahead and resets it, and it says it has a high score of 0, by, and no one's played the game yet. And it took those right from here. All right, so whatever values you put in here, it should put here. But I'm going to leave those because we're going to save over them later, so it really doesn't matter what's there. So I'm just going to quit this. It looked like my text was off a little bit, so I'm just going to move it over. All right, so that's it for the main menu for right now. So if we look at our game script now, all right, the only time that's going to pop up is when the player loses. All right, so if we scroll down to where we're comparing and resetting our objects and comparing if our lives are lost. All right, before we show the restart menu, we can actually, if lives are all lost, we can go ahead and check and see if the score is greater than the high score. Okay, and if that's the case, we can give the player the option to put in their information to load a high score. All right, so let's go ahead and get that set up. So inside here, if score is greater than, and now if I just try and put in high score, then, and hit enter, notice it gives me an error. Right here it says it's not declared or it's inaccessible. So if I go back to my main menu script, right here we made it public, and it's, oops, we made it public and we have our variable here. The key thing is when you grab a variable from another script or a subroutine from another script, you have to put the script name in there. So we have to say menmenu.highscore. So that tells the program that the variable is coming from the main menu script, which is this right up here. All right, so that should get rid of that error. And now we say, again, we got to grab main menu.highscore. So we're setting the high score equal to what the player's score is. And now we're going to go ahead and show a dialog box that allows the player to type in their information and save their name. That goes along with the high score. All right, this video is getting kind of long, so I'll cut it here and I'll create a new one where we go ahead and create the high score dialog and test that out.